Alright guys, we're going to do a cookie clicker game, and I'm going to show you how to do the variables in order for you to click on the cookie and then to upgrade your clicks. So first thing, you're going to start off by deleting this cat sprite. So you click there. And now just add whatever kind of sprite you want. You can either create it, or in this case I'm just going to look for a sprite that's in here because your cookie clicker game does not need to be a cookie, and but I'm going to use a fortune cookie. So we have our fortune cookie here, and I'm just going to increase the size a bit, probably to, I don't know, like 300. Cool. So now in our blocks view, we want to put out an event. The event, so when this is clicked, when the game's clicked, we're going to set our variables. Let's make a variable, and let's call it cookies. Okay. And we'll drag out this set cookies to 0. So now we've got our cookies here for our variable. Tells us how many. And when we start the game, it's 0. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add to this cookie that every time it's clicked, we want to add to our variable. So let's go over here to the events. And we say when this sprite is clicked, but we're going to modify it just a little bit. We're going to pull out a forever block and attach that. Now inside the forever block, we want an if-then statement. So we'll drag in the if-then, and then we'll take a, let's see. We want the sensing blocks because we want it to read the mouse click so that it's not as laggy as the when sprites clicked. So we'll put in when the mouse pointer is touching. Actually, let's add an and block in here for our operators. So we're going to add one of these diamond shaped ones. I'm going to say if it's touching, I can get the block in there. Alright, now drag that whole green block. If it's touching and the mouse pointer or the mouse click is down, so let's find that one. Then we want something to happen. We want to go into our variables and we want to change cookies by 1. We also want to change the look of it because we want to scale down and then back up to make it look like we clicked on something. So we're going to change the size by 10. We're going to then wait 2 seconds. Or actually, let's go 0.2 seconds. And then I want to change the size back to -10. Let's see what this looks like. So when I click, it increases in scale, and it should be adding to our variable down here. So that's the first step for your cookie clicker game. Alright, so now we have our click going, and now what we need to do is basically create some zones in our background. So what we can do here is we can add a background, or in this case I want to paint onto the background. I just want to use some lines down the middle and down the side here to help us with our little zones. And then I'll change the size of my cookie next. So let's change that to 200. Alright, so now we have our different zones. The next thing that you'll do for your variables, you'll add different things to the side that can help you increase the amount of clicks. Let's go ahead and add an animation or a new sprite with numbers. So I'll just do the paint here. and I'll use that again, and I'll just kind of make a text, and in the text it'll say +1. Alright, so we have this +1 that shows up. We'll actually kind of make it just a little bit smaller. Kind of move it around. Cool. And now what we want to do for that +1, we want to increase the scale, but we want to give it what's called a ghost effect. So I'm going to come in here and get out of the costume. So now we want this to happen on click. So we're going to look for on the forever part. We want to broadcast something. So when the sprite is clicked, we want to go to our events and we want to broadcast a message. And under here I'm going to just put new message and put cookie clicked. Alright, so the next part, we're going to get this effect here where we can have the +1 show up every time it's clicked, and then it goes away. So I'm going to go to the sprite. Now we added this broadcast cookie clicked. So over here we want that to happen when we hear that broadcast. We're going to go to our events and say when I receive cookie clicked. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to reset exactly where this number 1 is, because we're going to have it move. So I want this to go to, and actually that's exactly where we're at, 25, 25. Go back to that position. We're going to go to the looks drawer, and we're going to set the effect to 0, which would be the ghost effect. We also want to show our sprite, and then we're going to repeat the following sequence so that it looks like it's moving. So if you go into control, and then repeat is here at the top. If you change your Y, which will make it move up and down, we can change that by something like 3, let's say, and then add that ghost effect to it. So change ghost effect by 10. Now when we click the cookie, we can see how that 1 moves up off the screen. Every time the cookie is clicked, it adds to the variable, and we have our 1. So the next thing to do in this video would be to add different ways that you can use your cookies to buy and make a faster click so you can get more clicks per second. Alright, so in this next step, we're going to actually add to where you can do some auto clicking, and you can buy some things to increase your stats. So let's first go ahead and add a new sprite. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add, I don't know, add a chick, because why? Because chicks dig cookies, I guess. Alright, we're going to rotate this so that it's looking the other way just for fun. So on the direction down here, I'll change that to where I can rotate it. And then we have a chick. So we want to make another variable. So we're going to make the variable called clicks per second. Okay. So now that we have that variable, what we want to do is we want to make it to where when we click this and we have 50 cookies available down here in our variable, we can buy a chick that will automatically eat cookies per second. Now let's go ahead and on this sprite here, let's open it up in the costumes, and let's add some text to the side of it. So let's take and say 50 cookies, which is the cost, and then underneath we'll say +1 clicks per second. Okay, and then we will adjust the size of all this and how it goes. Oh, got a typo there. Per second. Alright, I'm going to highlight all that, click off. just put it down there like this. And we want this, since we rotated this, it's going to flip it. So let's flip it ourselves. And kind of rotate it this way so it looks right. We should have did this before we flipped it. Actually, would have been a great idea. But there you go. So you see it on our screen here, 50 cookies, clicks per second. All right, and now I'll get out of this, and we'll go back to the code. So for the chick, we want to create another variable here, and we're just going to call it chicks. And I'll double click this so it just shows us a number, and we'll put this out in front so it shows us how many of those that we have. All right, so back on our code view, let's go back to the cookie, and then we have to change some of the variables here on the start of layout. So we want to set chicks to 0, set clicks per second to 0, all of those. So then we're going to do something where we can take forever. This will be our auto click function, where we set forever. We want to wait 1 second. Then what we want to do is we want to change the number of cookies. So let's go to our variables. Change cookies, not by 1, but we want it to change by clicks per second. So if our clicks per second is 0, it's not going to do anything. But as we add to that variable, it's going to add to our clicks. So let's go back to now the thing that we're purchasing over here to make our auto clicks go well. So on this sprite, you're going to want to do the event handler that says when this sprite is clicked, when this sprite is clicked, we want to do a couple things. First of all, though, we want to double check and see if we have enough cookies to buy. So if this is for 50 cookies, then we need to say if our cookies, so go back to the variable drawer. Actually, let's drag it out there. We need an operator here to compare. So we want the greater than sign. So if our cookies are greater than, and we'll put 49, because that means that we'll have 50, then we want to be able to change our variables up. We want to change the number for this one of chicks by 1. We also want to change, actually let's change the order. We want to change the number of cookies by -50, because that's what it cost, and then change the number of chicks by 1, and also change the number of clicks per second by 1. All right, so when I click on it, let's click the flag to restart. All right, start the game, clicking. I've got, oh, we'll need to change the scale of that. So let's go into the cookie. Let's make sure that we, when it's clicked, we set it back to 75%. So let's set the size, just in case our clicks get out of hand there. Okay, flag, start over. All right, so I took a break and I moved the broadcast from under the set size to in the forever, and for some reason that fixed our issue here. So I'm going to click the flag to reset everything, and now I'm going to play the game, and as I click until I get to 50, all right, now that I have 50, if I click on the bird over here, we can see it, now it's adding to the total 1 per second, and I have 1. So you keep clicking and it will keep adding. On the auto click, it's still going, and let's test it out to see if it'll go up by 2 now, and buy another one. That should go up by 2 each time. So to make more, you just need to do more of the same, which would be create another sprite, create another variable, make sure that you're adding the variables and you're making sure that however much you're charging for it, you subtract that from the cookies, and you can make a full-blown cookie clicker game. Thank you.